Hi, I'm Caleb Giddings from Gun Nuts Media, and today we're talking about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, even if it's something that I don't really enjoy doing that much when it comes to firearms training. What are we talking about? We're talking about dry fire. If you're very new to the shooting sports, to self-defense, to competition, to all of that stuff, you might not actually know what dry fire is. So allow me to explain it to you. Dry fire is firearms training where you take everything that's fun and enjoyable about shooting and replace it with countless hours of mind-numbing repetition with an unloaded gun. It's the best! Okay, but in all seriousness, dry fire is actually a very valuable training tool. So today I want to briefly talk about the basics of dry fire and how to dry fire in a way that will improve your ability either as a competition shooter or a self-defense shooter. First up, we need to understand why dry fire is important. Dry fire is important within its limitations because it gives you a training environment where you can really get to know the fundamentals of things like grip, stance, sight alignment, trigger control without having to worry about the distractions of setting off a tiny explosion this far away from your face, which for some people can be slightly distracting. So how do we dry fire in a way that's meaningful and that adds value to our training time? Well, the first thing we need to do is make sure the gun is unloaded. And I don't mean unloaded, I mean like unloaded. So I'm going to take my loaded gun, the Sig Sauer 1911 Nightmare Fastback, which is pretty dope. This is the current 1911 that we're testing. I'm going to take the magazine out. I'm going to take the round out of the chamber. And if I was doing an actual dry fire session right now, I would now go into another room. I want to be somewhere where there's absolutely zero ammunition whatsoever. And my carry ammo is within arm's reach, but it's over there. So now that we have a really, really unloaded gun, this is the first thing that we do when we start training. So step one, unload your gun. And I mean really, really unload your gun. Again, I go into a completely different room where there's no ammo whatsoever, just in case, I don't know, I leave the gun and I set it down and the bullet gremlins sneak a bullet into the chamber. Step two, have a safe backstop. For dry fire training, yes, we know the gun's unloaded, but we still want to be firing in a safe direction. So if you live in an apartment, that would probably not include an interior wall where if something bad were to happen, a round's going to zip through into your neighbor's place and kill little Susie Durkins. We don't want to kill Susie Durkins, all right? Things that will stop bullets. Your refrigerator will probably stop a bullet. Exterior brick walls, those will probably stop bullets, all right? So for me, I have an exterior brick wall. It's solid brick. It's very thick. That's my safe direction. I know if I cook around into that wall, the brick is going to stop it, and even if it doesn't, it's going to go 700 yards before there's any sort of people or something that it could hurt. So it is a safe direction. Make sure you figure out where your safe direction is. That's step two. Step three, and possibly the most important step for dry fire training, is have a goal for your training, all right? We don't want to just unload the gun and then spend 40 minutes doing reps with no goal in mind. That doesn't actually benefit you as a shooter. Let's say that your goal is to be a better self-defense oriented shooter. So what are some things that you could do with dry fire training and how could you set those goals up? Here's an example, drawing from concealment. I've been working with an AIWB with an appendix carry holster now for a while, and I still struggle with the draw from concealment. So I spend a lot of time in dry fire working on that. There are two different things that I can work on in dry fire with this. The first is establishing perfect reps, all right? So to do a perfect rep, what you want to focus on isn't speed. Forget about speed, okay? Do it at half speed, third speed, whatever speed. But the idea is to have the perfect draw, the perfect rep, so that you have no wasted motion and everything is squared away. So for me, that's gonna look like this. I'm gonna be back here. I'm gonna wait for whatever my go signal is, whether it's a timer or something like that, and I'm going to clear my concealment garment, draw the gun, and drive it towards the target. All right, I'm not going to press the trigger. I'm not going to do anything like that. That's all I'm going to do. So we'll do that again. And again, we're doing perfect reps, minimal movement. Clear, draw, drive. All right, everything about that was good. And that's a great thing to practice, is getting perfect reps. You can do that with reloads as well. You're not worried about the speed of the movement. You just want to go through the mechanics and make sure that you have no wasted movement, all right? I see a lot of guys, and I do it too, who when we go for a reload, will drop the mag out of the gun. We'll drop the mag out of the gun, and as we go for the reload, the body cants over to the side to clear space for that mag pop for the hand to grab the mag. That's wasted movement. We don't want to do that. So, goal number 1 of things you can do in dry fire, eliminate wasted movement. Goal number 2, you can build speed in dry fire. We do this using the reduced par time training method. So let's say your goal is to have a sub 1.5 second drop. Again, from concealment. We're going to focus on self-defense. All of this also works for competition shooting. There's more skills you can train for competition shooting, but for self-defense, drawing from concealment, probably important. If you do actually need to use your gun in a self-defense situation, having a fast draw from concealment, it's a good idea. So anyway, let's say your goal is a 0.5 or a 0.5, geez, a 1.5 draw from concealment, all right? So how that would work is I would set my par time for a time I know I can beat, 2 seconds. And I'm going to go on that par time and I'm going to do reps, beating the 2 second par time, probably 5 to 10 reps doing that. Then I'm going to decrease the par time, 1.75 seconds, beat that par time. Then I'm going to drop that par time down to my goal time, 1.5 seconds. If I can successfully beat that cleanly without fumbling, without jacking up anywhere, I'm going to drop the par time down even further. If I can't, let's say I get to 1.5 or 1.25 or whatever, and I'm struggling, then what I'm going to do, so here's my struggle bus rep, 1.25. I can get it sometimes, but not all the time cleanly. So then I'm going to drop my par time down to something absurdly fast that I know I can't beat unless angels descend from heaven and the sun is shining perfectly and there's beautiful music in the background. Let's say a 0.95, all right? On that 0.95, I'm going to do everything I can to hustle that gun out of the holster as quickly as I can. It may be sloppy, it may be ugly, but all I'm going to do is work on violent, explosive motion. I want to move as quickly as I possibly can, get the gun out, get it on target, and do work, all right? I'm going to do 5 to 10 reps at that really, really hard to beat par time, and then I'm going to go back to my goal time, whether it's 1.25 or 1.5. And what you will find is after having done those reps where you're just hustling, all you're trying to do is just move fast, your goal time may be a lot more attainable. So we can either work on perfect reps or we can work on speed. The last thing I want to say about dry fire is be careful with dry fire. It's easy to get burned out on dry fire, especially for me. I have a short attention span and there's only so much beep I can do before I get bored, all right? So I try to limit my dry fire sessions to 15, 20 minutes tops. Maybe if I'm feeling really good about training, I'll do 30 minutes, but I never want to have a dry fire session where I start to lose focus on the goal. And for me, that usually happens after about 15 minutes of training. I can still accomplish a very valuable amount of training in 15 minutes, especially if I do it with regularity. There have been a lot of studies that show that in the sports science field that you're better off having multiple shorter training sessions with regularity than you are having 1 or 2 long training sessions. It's just like you're much better off studying for 20 minutes a night for an exam than you are cramming for 3 hours the night before the exam. So, with dry fire, don't have one big, long, super, I'm going to dry fire for 2 hours today session once a week. Have 5, 10-minute sessions spread throughout the week. You'll accomplish more because the training will still be fresh. The last thing I want to say about dry fire is to go back to the safety thing, all right? If you dry fire with your carry gun like I'm doing today, once you're done dry firing, don't do any more reps, all right? There's a reason my dry fire target is located in a separate room from where I keep my ammunition, because once I'm done dry firing and I load my gun back up, I don't want to walk past my dry fire target again and be like, oh, I'll get in one more rep, because that's how loud noises happen. And we don't want to make an unintentional loud noise, now do we? So that's why we keep dry fire targets far away from ammunition. We don't want to have any unintentional loud noises when we put our guns back on. If you have any questions about this video, if you want a dry fire training plan, there are a lot of great resources out there. Ben Stoger's book is phenomenal for training on how to dry fire. Steve Anderson has a great dry fire book as well. And my favorite is Mike Seeklander's handgun training book, which also has a lot of good dry fire drills in it. If you have more questions, feel free to leave a comment down here below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting us on Patreon. It helps us deal with not having to have ads on the site, and, you know, I'll buy whiskey and dog food with it. Thanks for watching. I'm Caleb Giddings. Carry your guns.